No, I'm just trying to pull the Google Doc up on my computer, but like my Google Drive won't load for some reason.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I'm not a tech guy.
Yeah, I've kind of had to become one working in IT.
Isn't that what you do for work?
Yeah, but they hired
I
me off
kind of have
before. I wasn't really a
to like
tech guy before then. We'll just kind of fly through the games. Just kind of like what we think would have happened. Like you guys think one person would have took the reins or whatever. Just kind of. I'm talking about this and I'm depressed about it too. Like it just pissed that this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Where in the hell did that? How did that happen? See, this is where my tech. I just accidentally pulled a tab out, and I don't know how to get it to go back.
Oh.
Damn it, go back. I want it on the other screen. See, I have some tech experience, but some not. All right, let's see here. Like I still get calls where I'm frustrated as hell because I can't get a printer to work or something. And I'm just like, screw computers and screw computer tech, screw all of it. It's just dumb.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna call you because I don't want to email you.
I hate the conversations via text sometimes.
Oh God, please don't text me. Just call me. I got one email the other day that said, "Hey, I deleted your email. How do I get it back?" And I said, "Dude, I don't work in IT. Like, I also didn't send you this email, so like I can't help you."
Right.
So that was fun.
Yeah, if you got one question for me, go ahead and text it to me. I don't care. But my mom will do this like she's trying to get an answer to something, and she'll go this roundabout way. Like, "What are you doing?" "I'm just sitting at home with the girls." What? Like she has she wants me to pick her up from work, but she won't just ask it. She's got to do like these 12 questions to get around to what I'm doing at 6:15 tonight. I'm like, just freaking ask it, or just call me and say, "Hey, pick me up." Yeah, that's what drives me crazy. Like, just get to the point. You ain't got time for all that. Like, get to the point, man. Get to the point. Keep it simple, stupid, right? Something like that.
Exactly. I'm also in my first Campus to Canton league.
Ooh,
nice.
And I'm really enjoying that.
Yep, I saw you were killing it. You've been kind of watching your draft a little bit, like who you've been picking and stuff.
My team is good.
Nice.
I don't know how people are letting all this value fall. I had 21 picks in the draft before everyone had 17.
Devy is really where you can you can dominate in Devy leagues if you have even the faintest idea of what you're doing.
Well, these are all like it's Ray and Travis May and Jay Weiss and they're like, "Well, I got to get my guy, so I'm going to trade up for him." And I was like, "Okay, give me your next 2 picks."
Yeah, I love that stuff, man. I love when you get it. It's all mixed together, right?
Yeah, I drafted Tutu Atwell at the end of the 6th round, and I got a 7th and an 8th round pick for him. And I was like, "Dude, I don't think you understand the value here."
Wow.
Jeez.
That's saying that Tutu Atwell actually has like NFL talent, which he might, but I don't think it's strong enough to give up 2 picks for him.
He's small. He's electric as hell, but man, yeah, that's crazy.
So I'll take it. What is going on with my computer right now?
I don't know. Have you tried turning it off and back on? The answer to everything.
No. Well, I'll just have the Google Doc on my phone. That'll just be easier.
That'll work. Yeah, I'll kind of guide you through it. I mean, it's fine.
I'm just here for spicy takes.
Sure. Yeah. You can do that. Might have a few. Let's see. All right, you guys ready?
Hit it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to you under a strict no human contact order. This is Devy Owner's Manual, your source for building a better Devy squad and using it to build a championship fantasy football team. You can find our podcast on Twitter at Devy Manual. Reach out to us. Please let us know how we're doing and let us know if you have any questions. Now I'm going to introduce first up my co-host. He's the best in the West, baby, Mr. Lawman himself, Pete Lawrence. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. Just having a fun time with quarantine and watching Tiger King. So,
Tiger King, and didn't you just start that, Kane? Tiger King.
I am almost done with episode 3.
Nice.
I'm glad we live in America.
It is wild.
Where apparently there's just a plethora of tiger sex cults in the South. And the thing that you really just gloss over in that entire show is the most normal guy is a dude who within the first minute of his conversation drops that he murdered an ATF agent or watched one die on his property, air quotes.
Yeah, he didn't do it. He was just there.
Just there.
I know. I'm thinking I have to watch it. Everybody's talking about it. So I first saw the preview for it. I'm like, that looks just insane and dumb. And I was not even the least bit interested, but everybody's watching it now. So
it's wild. It makes no sense that there's 2 random sex cult tiger places in the South. Like, how can there be 2? Like, 1, okay. But 2, yikes.
It's honestly so much of the show. There's so many things that they could really dive deeper into, but they kind of gloss over. I mean, they give it a few moments, but there's one gal who loses an arm, but is still working there. And it's just, oh yeah, she lost an arm, went to the hospital, had it amputated. And then you're watching her give her interview. And I want to know where she's at. I mean, it looks like this post-apocalyptic, Fallout. It looks like she's in Fallout, the video game.
I gotta check it out. I got it. All right, guys. This other voice you're hearing is Kane. Kane. I always screw up your last name. It's Fossil, right? Fassel.
Yeah,
Fassel. There you go. I knew I.
Crazy anyway. Norwegians.
All right, from the Devy Marketplace and also the Draft Lounge. How you doing, Kane?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me on. It's nice to talk Devy since we couldn't actually record a Devy Marketplace episode this week. So nice to talk to someone, even though I can't argue with Caleb.
Yeah, I don't know if you seem to be training him well, though. I've noticed your guys are getting better, and he's starting to agree with you more. So I think the training's finally wearing off on him. So. I don't know if
I think he just doesn't want to get yelled at anymore.
He got tired of it.
It's really all it is. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll call it training. I like it. You're his lion, and you're his tiger. Or his tiger. You're his tiger. You're the tiger. You're the Tiger King. I don't know. He's your little tiger. Yep. Anyways, don't dive into that more. It's all right. All right, so we just wanted to get together and talk to you guys. Obviously, we don't have any spring games this year. Hold on, let me close the door. My wife just got home. It's crazy loud in the other room. All right, there we go. Much better. All right. Obviously, we're not going to have any spring games this year, and that makes us all incredibly sad here. But we're going to kind of go through what we think would have happened in the spring games. There's some really good storylines and things that could have happened. Some races for positions and things like that. Just we're going to hop into our space machine and enter another realm free of COVID-19 virus, in a realm, a Spider-Verse, if you may, where the spring games are actually happening and we're going to get college football. So here we go. I don't know. Terrible sound effects. Or do the Andy Richter thing. In the year 2000. Everybody remembers that. Anyway. All right, guys. First up, like one of the biggest, we're going to start kind of with the big teams, the big races, the ones you have to worry about. Alabama has some pretty interesting things going down, losing obviously Tua and Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy. So the big one, though, is going to be the quarterback. Does Mac Jones stay there, or does Saban go out of his character and actually have a rookie going in there? Freshman. I haven't talked about football in too long, guys. Sorry about that. Do you think Saban bucks the trend and goes with the rookie Bryce Young, or is he going to go with the veteran Mac Jones, who looked all right last year, but not like a world beater? So, Pete, what are you thinking is going to happen there with the quarterbacks?
I'm going to still say he goes with tradition. It's, kind of a Saban thing of more just leaning on that experience, especially if we don't have a spring game, if there's not a, kind of a limited practice before the season starts. Bryce Young, highly recruited, highly regarded, I think. And, but he's kind of a bit on the small side, if we're going to be generous. 5 foot, I think 10 and about 180, 190 pounds. So Mac Jones, like he said, didn't light it up, but I think he's still going to be the guy.
Kane, do you have any thought process there?
I think Mac Jones starts off the quarterback for Alabama, but I don't think he's gonna stay the starter for too long. When you have a guy like Bryce Young, who's the number one quarterback in this last recruiting class, and you just add on the fact that you just want a little more of an arm to play that traditional offense that we've seen over the last few years, obviously with Hurts and Tua, and you want more of that deep down the field action, that's going to be Bryce Young. He's a better passer than Mac Jones. Mac Jones just has some college experience, so he just makes better decisions. But I think Bryce Young is going to take that job, and I don't think it's going to be a surprise when that happens.
Right. What about the other tag? Talua, I guess. Talua is how you would say it, I guess.
Talia.
There. It's probably that. Yeah, I'm trying too hard to make it sound. What about him? He was a 4-star guy that came in. He's a sophomore. Maybe he takes the job.
I think he's going to transfer somewhere.
That'd be interesting.
He's never going to play at Alabama.
Yeah, I don't know either. Like the limited amount that he was in, I was not overly impressed, and it almost sounds like he was kind of just brought there just because. I mean, he was a 4-star guy, but still, you kind of get the idea, the impression that it was just because Tua was there. So the numbers on Mac Jones were actually pretty good. He had completed almost 70% of his passes for 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and those were later in the season when they were playing their SEC stretch as well. So. Definitely nothing to shake a stick at, but
I mean that's you talked about the completion percentage, and kind of that gets bumped up with a little bit of action in West Carolina. The Auburn game, 335 yards against Auburn and Michigan, but when you're throwing to Ruggs, Jeudy, Waddle, Smith, 4 guys who probably within the next 2 years are all first-round picks.
Right. Yeah, and I think Smith I was kind of surprised he stayed. I mean, he was pretty much the wide receiver 1 this year by statistics. I mean, it's kind of inflated by that huge game he had where he had like 5 touchdowns, but he ended up with 1,200 yards and 14 scores too. So kind of seemed to take over that Jeudy role, the guy with the big catches down the sideline. They know the more yards. So what were you going to say, Kane?
Yeah, I think if we just go back to Bryce Young, I think the thing that he does the best is just he has a really high football IQ, and that's something that's instantly going to translate. And then you just look at some of the stats, and I watched some of the games he was playing, and in his senior year, he had 56 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So a 56-6 ratio. It's really good. So
yeah, I think I didn't do air quotes well enough when I said Bryce Young is a pretty talented, highly regarded prospect.
Yeah, I just think he has everything that you could want. Just knowing Saban, especially since I'm not sure if Bryce Young did enroll in the spring or not, but without having that extra time with the quarterback, Saban's easily going to lean Mac Jones because they have a pretty solid opponent week 1, which is not the normal Alabama thing to have happen because it's Alabama USC week 1. So that's definitely a game that they want to make sure they win because I think that's going to look really good later in the season as USC kind of beats up on the rest of the Pac-12, at least like 9 of the teams in the Pac-12, since there's not a whole lot of competition over there.
Right.
How dare you insult the Pac-12 out here on the West
I said
Coast.
there were like 2.5 good teams. That's pretty good.
Something we can't gloss over. I mean, like you guys said, Bryce Young was the number 2 recruit in the entire country. So, and his mobility is going to be a key because, I mean, Alabama's had good offensive linemen, but their offensive line at time has been kind of suspect. I mean, Tua took a beating at times, and so it was him holding onto the ball a little too long. But some of it was also, so I think his Bryce Young having the mobility could get him in the game. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and they say that he's a dual threat quarterback, but totaled about 1,000 yards throughout his entire career in high school. So obviously he kind of more uses his legs to set up extra passing lanes. Because like Pete alluded to, he's not the biggest guy. What does it say here on 24/7? He clocks in at 5'11", 183 pounds. So he's not the biggest guy. So he uses his legs to set up those extra passing lanes and to give his wide receivers more time to break free. So don't expect him, as soon as you see that dual tag on 24/7, don't expect him to put up tons of fantasy points just running, because that's not really his game. Think of it kind of more of like an Aaron Rodgers-esque like rollout just to make sure that you can pass it.
Right, yeah, I hate that when they do that because dual, you just automatically think it's Jalen Hurts, or somebody who can run like that, but that's not necessarily the case. But all right. Do you guys have anything else to add on Alabama? I think you nailed it on the head. I think Mac Jones is going to would have came out the starter, but I don't know if he'll stay there all year. So
I think Tyrell Shavers, 6'6". They said he posted, I think, a 4.39 40-yard dash coming out of high school. He's going to be one of those dudes, and it's not really like a, hey, you need to look at for this guy, but just this is a warning. It's senior year. He hasn't done anything, but he's going to go to the combine and he's going to light it up. And you're going to see Twitter just ablaze about him because of his workout scores. So just don't get caught up in that.
Right. I like it, man.
I think the super interesting thing is, what do they do at running back as soon as Najee Harris leaves? Because not only do they have Brian Robinson, Trey Sanders, they obviously had who's the guy that just transferred? Jerome Ford. And then you add in Jace McClellan and Roydale Williams, which is number 6 and number 9 on the top running backs.
But that's always been Bama. Bama's always just really recruited good running backs. So
right, but it gets to the point of like, which one are you trusting? Like, if you're in a really deep Devy league, are you drafting Jace McClellan, who's the number 6 running back? Are you drafting Roydale Williams, the number 9 running back coming into Alabama, knowing that Trey Sanders is still going to be there?
Yeah, you take a shot. You hope that these dudes just stay healthy and get it up. I mean, so all of us are college to Canton leagues. Hey, man, that's a dude just take a shot on. Hopefully, I'm not spending first, second round kind of capital. I did jump on Trey Sanders, I think, in a first or a second incoming freshman type draft. But hey, that's man, you're talking about a 6, like you said, 6th, 9th in the country. That's talent. Talent's going to win. You just got to roll with it. Plus, it's we're talking about 18-year-old kids. Who knows if they're going to do something stupid? So,
right,
Right. I'm just saying that you're getting a really good buy window.
Yeah.
Later into the season, when people are drafting them high, knowing that they're really good recruits, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, they're not really playing, and you can hope to capitalize on that, knowing that Najee Harris and his 900 touches every year aren't going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to have guys that are going to move off of. Trey Sanders dealt with injury last year, so I'm sure dudes are kind of punched out on him as well. Another one you could get probably quite cheap.
I bet you can get them really cheap right now, yeah. So, I mean, not really, really cheap, but, cheaper than definitely you could have last year. So, yeah, and these, Alabama's one of those schools that just cycles them through, just like the next school, Georgia. So Georgia's the same way. I mean, you got a huge battle there with Zamir White and James Cook. Who's going to be the next great Georgia back, and maybe both. Maybe they both, and maybe they'll be exactly the same way they've done. It seems like the last 10 years. Just kind of use both of them. A little bit here, a little bit there. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about with Georgia. Who do you think is going to emerge from that battle, Kane?
All of them. That's just the way that Georgia has done it, right? Is you had 3 running backs this past year get a decent amount of touches. So you're going to have that same 3-headed monster, and then you think back what happened, 3 months ago when they still had Zachary Evans committed to Georgia. So not only was there was going to be a 4th guy. So obviously they're committed to really spreading out those touches and utilizing every single one of them. But I think the main question is, does Georgia all of a sudden have a better offense now that they have Todd Monken, and they won't play conservative as soon as they get a lead, which has burnt them numerous times in SEC games?
Yeah, that's a huge, huge factor. Like you said, James Cook last year looked pretty good. He ended up with 16 catches, which I was really impressed with. He was a little more involved, but he has a little more seasoning. They both came in the same class. They were both 2018 guys, but James Cook was a little bit farther down. Zamir White was the number 1 back, but he missed. He's got the 2 ACL tears, so that's kind of something you got to worry about a little bit. But geez, sorry guys. Whew. So yeah, it should be an interesting battle, and they most likely both will be very, very good, and both are eligible to come out this next year as well. So I don't see.
And I have Kendall Milton as my running back 3 out of this recruiting class.
Nice.
So definitely don't sleep on him. The thing that really shines with him is just his contact balance. Which is something that seems like we say over and over and over again for multiple Georgia running backs, right? Coming out of college, Gurley's contact balance was incredible. Nick Chubb's contact balance was incredible. Like Swift's contact balance is incredible. And it's like that seems to be one of the main things that we see over and over and over again with these Georgia running backs, and it's not stopping here. And not to mention that you add 227 pounds on a 6'1" guy.
Yeah, Milton's
I like that size.
He's a big boy, whereas Cook's a little bit smaller. He's 5'11", 195. So he's definitely fits more of the pass catching back, but can also run inside a little bit. I mean, both of their numbers and limited action is pretty damn good. So yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches in running backs, but is the offense going to open up under Todd, like you said, Todd Monken and Jamie Newman? I think they finally have a quarterback that can push the ball downfield. So I don't know, Pete, what is your impressions? Do you think that Newman's going to open that offense up?
Yeah, I'd like. I think Kane just knocked it out. You're talking about getting a new offensive coordinator at Georgia. Ideally, they would have Justin Fields stepping in right now, but for whatever reason, he went to Georgia in the first place, knowing that Jake Fromm. Yeah,
exactly.
Knowing that Fromm was there, you just had the national championship. Ideally, I'd like to see what Fields would be doing there, but I think he's doing great up in Ohio State. Loads of talent up there as well, and we'll talk about them just in a moment. But I'm very excited for what he's going to be doing in that offense coming out from West Virginia. Hopefully, I open it up. You throw into guys like Pickens. the bevy of running back talent there. I'm higher on Zamir White. I'm happy to see him make it through the season unhurt. I think he's going to definitely go pro after this year. He's dealt with the knee injuries, no need to risk it. So, yeah, just loads of talent at Georgia at running back. Just rinse and repeat.
Right. I don't know if did you get a chance to watch Jamie Newman much last year, Kane, or?
I've watched quite a bit. I think he does some things really, really well. And I think what Todd Monken is going to do is to not just bring Georgia out of the Stone Age, but maybe even to the 21st century when it comes to running an offense. There's just no place in a college offense, especially in the SEC, for a team that can repeatedly run the ball and not throw it past 20 yards. Because as soon as you bring everyone into the box and you can't throw over the top of them, like Jake Fromm had the inability to do time in and time out over the last 3 years, it kind of just halts the offense. So I think there's a chance now that Georgia's going to be much better. I think if you're trying to knock Jamie Newman for anything, it's his decision making.
Yeah, agreed.
What he has between the ears doesn't always match up with what he sees or what we see on the field. He's late to read defenses, which I think is going to be much more difficult in the SEC versus what he was playing at before in the ACC with Wake. So I think he's definitely intriguing from a Devy prospect, especially the ability that he can extend plays with his legs. He's much more athletic than people ever give him credit for. So I'm interested, but I'm not spending a first-round Devy pick on him. It's not worth it. I don't think the return in value is there. When we talk about 3 or 4 quarterbacks, and that's being the max that we see go in the first couple rounds of an NFL draft, and you already have at least 2 that are going to be the top 2 guys, and I just don't see how Jamie Newman's all of a sudden going to slide to be a 3rd guy in the NFL draft in next year.
Right. I mean, he's there. It's definitely there if he takes it. But you're right. The decision making was that I saw a little bit too careless, a little bit too gunslinger, and that's something that hopefully a good coaching staff can teach him, but also let him still throw the ball. Because I loved watching that offense. I loved watching him throw to Sage Surratt, and I thought when I was watching Sage, I kept thinking, man, that Newman kid's awesome. I was watching Surratt initially, and then I really like a lot of what he does. Like you said, he makes the throws, but yeah, the attention to detail and the reading defense, things like that, things that are going to be big in the SEC. We'll go to another SEC team. This one's this one would have been a fun spring game to watch. The LSU game would have told us a lot about what to expect from this team this year. Obviously losing, their passing coordinator and Joe Brady and almost their entire offense with the exception of Chase. Half their defense. This team it's got a chance to if they win 7 or 8 games, I'd be surprised. There's a huge drop off in talent. They have young talent coming up, but right now they, the guys that are going to have to step up, it's going to be tough. So Pete, what do you think is going to happen with LSU this year, man?
I think you made a point, but especially the change in offensive coordinator. Your main guy now going up to the NFL. What's that going to look like for the offense? There's still a ton of talent there. I think it's just going to hinge on the quarterback position. So that's the only big thing.
All right, I have the roster here, and I mean Miles Brennan did see some action, in relief of Burrow, and they have Peter Parrish, T.J. Finley, Max Johnson's a really good recruit, but he's really really young, obviously. The running backs, they have the John Emery, who is right behind Trey Sanders, but then in front, also in the backfield, they have Tyron Davis Price and Chris Curry. Both had some action last year and both look pretty darn good. So, I mean, they've got some pieces, but it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be so tough, even though Edo is going to be – I love Edo. He's like one of my favorite guys in college sports. So I thought about it, but I wasn't going to try it. Luckily, I have Kane to just go ahead and take the reins and run with it. So do you see any hope for that team this year? Kane, what do you think, man?
I think the biggest battle that we're looking at is at the running back position. Because if we remember watching LSU last year, Tyrion Davis-Price was actually getting more carry than John Emery Jr. was. So that's definitely something that we need to be cognizant of. And if you have drafted, let's say you're in a Devy league, you've already drafted John Emery Jr. I'm going to hedge my bets, and I'm also going to take Tyrion Davis-Price. And now I can take him in second, third round of a Devy league because people aren't going to be paying attention to him because they know that John Emery Jr. is the guy. But at least I know with the propensity of running backs that come out of LSU and that do well in the NFL, I'm going to make sure that I at least get the guy, whether that's John Emery Jr. and I drafted him last year or getting Tyrion Davis-Price later this year in a Devy draft, because at least I'm hedging my bets and I know that at least one of them is going to take off.
Oh, exactly, man. Exactly. All right. Speaking of running back battles, this is one of the biggest ones in the country is Ohio State. I mean, the team just loads and loads and loads every year. And then they get Trey Sermon transfers there. So between Master Teague and Trey Sermon, and they also got they also got one of the top running backs in Travion Henderson as well. So, I mean, wow, this team just keeps loading, man. I think they're going to make a legitimate run this year. I really like what they're doing, Ohio State. But, Kane, have you heard more about the severity of Master Teague's injury? I actually meant to look that up before the show, and I forgot.
No one said anything.
Right. I think that's kind of where we're at. So we kind of have to.
Which is concerning.
Right, because he looked amazing last year when he played, yeah.
Yeah, I do just want to make one quick note. Travion Henderson is in the 2021 recruiting class, so don't worry about him yet.
Sorry.
But he's definitely going to be – that just makes an even more intriguing battle in 2021, because then are they starting Master Teague, who could be coming off of a torn Achilles, or Travion Henderson, the number one running back? Right now, I think they have to start Trey Sermon. I don't know many people that are going to transfer knowing that they're not going to be the guy.
Right. And he's
kind of my take.
Yeah. Thanks for catching that. I don't believe I didn't do that. But Sermon looked really good his freshman and sophomore years at Oklahoma. He averaged nearly 6 yards a carry, caught the ball. It looked good. And this last year just kind of, not quite as good. But the offense seems like it just evolves around the quarterback and the wide receivers in Oklahoma and doesn't, and then he's going to an offense that does feature the running back, despite the fact that Teague looked pretty damn good last year too, with almost 800 yards at 6 yards a carry as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that, but I do think it's Trey's job to lose at this point, especially with us not knowing anything. So I don't know, P, that's how you see it out, man.
I just want to know if Trey Sermon's knee is okay. Sorry to jump in, Pete, but
no, good. No,
he had a knee issue last year, and I want to know if he's going to be 100%, because that's the main thing that's holding him back. I think is just injuries, especially when it comes to lower leg injuries for him.
Yeah, fully agree. Just getting to know what's going on with both players as far as injuries go. We're not going to hear about any of that right now with no spring games, nothing really going on. Hopefully everything's good with Teague. It seems pretty I imagine it's pretty major, because as Kane said, Sermon's not going out there unless he knows he's going to be the dude. But it's going to be nice seeing somebody like Sermon working in a backfield where you have, a talent like Justin Fields and running behind that offensive line.
Right. Good stuff. All right. That's enough Big Ten. We got to go back to the SEC. No, I'm just kidding. I want to talk quite a bit about Florida, but then we'll kind of blaze through the other SEC teams. I get kind of SEC burnout myself. I know that's where all the talent is, but I still get tired of talking about them all the time, because me and Kane are both up here in Big Ten country, and I love Big Ten football more than anything in the world. But even despite the fact that the SEC is where most of the talent is, I still love
it. Dwight, look at my screen real quick. This is just for you.
All right, let's see. Yes, I love it. I almost wore my sweatshirt, but
don't worry. I have the hanky just for the Gophers because Sky Yuma, baby.
Yeah. So, yep, love it, man. But Florida is. I actually texted Andrew Harbaugh before the earlier tonight and said I was going through the show sheet and going through the notes, and Florida, wow, they have some talent. They have some really legit offensive and defensive talent, man. So, like I put in the sheet that it's the Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts kind of led the team last year. Then they also got a 5-star running back that transferred from Miami, Lorenzo Lingard, and a 5-star wide receiver that transferred from Penn State, Justin Shorter. This team's got some talent, man. Like, it's legitimately, I think it's an SEC contender. They are that damn good. So, I don't know. What is your impression, Kane, of Florida and what they've done and where they could go with this team?
I think they have the second best coach in the SEC. I think Dan Mullen is a terrific coach. So get out of here with them Kirby Smart as a good coach takes, because you're not going to find him here. But I think everything that he's done is leading them to success. I hate to say it, but I think the injury to Felipe Franks came at the best time possible. Trask all of a sudden became just the guy. And one name that we can't forget is Trayvon Grimes, is the other wide receiver at Florida. Bigger bodied guy. So don't forget about him. I'm not excited about Justin Shorter. I've seen enough Penn State games to know that he ain't it. And watch out for Zachary Evans to sign with Florida.
Oh.
Ooh, hot. I think I saw that too. That's kind of where they're leaning. So I don't know
I
if you
heard
got
Florida and Ole Miss.
Oof. Please, Florida. That'd be fun. It'd be a hell of a lot of fun. What do you think, Pete? You like Florida?
Yeah, it's good to see that, you don't want to talk ill of a guy who lost a young man who lost his chance at being the starting quarterback, but the offense looked so much better with Trask in there. Kyle Pitts probably going to be one of the top tight ends coming out next year. And Kane said it again. Justin Shorter, nothing at Penn State, nothing to see here. Maybe he spikes it back up at Florida. It's tough to say. You're leaving one of the best workout programs in the nation from Penn State. So what's the issue? Is it just not mentally clicking? He's not making that jump into the collegiate game, or what? He looked great coming in, so it'd be nice to see him to step up kind of as everybody thought he was going to be.
I know you said that, Kane, but I that's the second or third like really top wide receiver that has gone to Happy Valley and died. So I'm starting to think maybe it's something they do up there. And you watch their passing game, and it's not very awe-inspiring. They're not very, they have the physical athletes and everything. So what's going on? So hopefully this is a springboard and a second chance for him, and he makes something of it. But like Juwan Johnson didn't do much when he got to Oregon. We all thought he might, and he didn't do squat up there either. So I don't know. Maybe they just don't know how to pick him. It's hard to say. So.
Oh, I skipped over Lingard. Another player I'm really excited to see get out there into Florida. Kind of just got washed away. But, stat I was looking up is that Trask had more passing completions than the running backs had rush attempts in 2019. And he didn't start the season as the quarterback, and he didn't have a whole lot of completions. So
that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Yeah, I think they've got the defense and the offensive talent now, so it'll be fun to watch. One of the teams that would have been a hell of a lot of fun to watch in the spring. So, I guess we'll go through these other SEC teams kind of quick. Ole Miss has a pretty good quarterback battle between John Reese Plumlee and Matt Corral. Corral's more of a traditional type passer. Plumlee's like the guy that kind of takes it and runs and is more of a dual threat. Not as very good passer. They'll probably end up using him both. But the name to really watch there is Jerrion Ely, who looked phenomenal this year. In a little bit he played, he ended up with 700 rushing yards for 7 yards a carry. Also caught 20 passes real quietly, I think. And it looks like he's picked football, and God, I hope he stays with it. So Jerrion Ely, that's a name to watch this year if we get football, hopefully. So I don't know if you got anything to add on that, Pete? Or
yeah, I like to see a healthy Coral going. I think you knocked it out with just kind of that you're probably going to see some sort of split quarterback rotation going through there. And just like you said, just excited for Ely. So,
Cade, you got anything?
Just Ely on this team. That's it.
Yep, totally agree, man. Mississippi State, everybody wants to make a big deal of Mike Leach coming in there and KJ Costello. Costello is just kind of, I don't know, man. He just didn't do it for me. I pulled up his numbers from Stanford to kind of check it out, and they're not pretty, man. I mean, they're just not. And the team had a lot of talent around him. So maybe this is a good chance. Leach does get the most out of his quarterback, so maybe it's a good chance for him. And I really like Kylan Hill there a lot as well. Got anything there, Kane? Or
Kylan Hill, that's really all I want there. I think I can't remember the guy that's going to be backing up KJ Costello, but he's good. But we won't be able to see anything, so it's hard to judge. Knowing just the system quarterbacks that Mike Leach likes, we don't see many of those transfer to the NFL and be successful in that traditional air raid system. That's not something we see over and over and over again. So Kylan Hill is basically the only part I like out of that.
What about the Jaguars?
Here's
I'm
one.
right.
Do you think over the next two drafts, does Gardner Minshew make it through as the quarterback for the Jags?
I think he does. I don't know.
I don't think
they
he
draft
signs another contract.
Do the Jags draft a quarterback this year? Probably not. But do they draft one in 2021?
Probably.
When they tank because their team is going to be awful.
Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, any of those types. So
Trey Lance.
Ooh.
I'm going to drop a Trey Lance take in here. Sorry.
Go ahead. That's fine, man. Good.
Quarterback 3 next year. If you have second or third round Devy picks, take Trey Lance because he will be a first round pick. I don't know how often you guys watch FCS games, but Trey Lance at NDSU is very, very, very good. He threw 0 interceptions his first year.
Okay. All right.
The pimps try to get it to you. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
Well, and then you have the last 2 quarterbacks of NDSU have both been drafted.
Exactly. Mason
So-
Tyler
Yeah.
drafted this year. So, we're all good.
So you have to think that he's going to get drafted, and the way that he's playing is out of control. Also, I live in the town that he went to high school in, so go Tigers.
Nice. Sweet. Yeah, he's a name that I've heard about and have not got a chance to watch yet. So I'm probably gonna end up taking him pretty quick here in a Devy draft that I'm in. So speaking of quarterbacks, up in the Northwest there, we're gonna go to Oregon. There's a pretty good. This should be an interesting race. Tyler Shaw, I guess, or Shaw. I don't know how you say that. Or Shaw. I don't know, man. After that one guy that played for the Lions this year kind of threw that wrench. So anyways, I'm off the rails again. So Tyler Shaw has been backing up Justin Herbert. So he's like the incumbent guy. Had to see in Oregon, but then they also brought in Jay Butterfield. Oregon just loves these big old quarterbacks, man. They got these teams going to these 5'11", 6-foot guys, and Oregon just keeps bringing in these 6'6" quarterbacks that, so I don't know, see how that battle shakes out. I think I heard you talking about that recently on the marketplace, didn't I, Kane?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Jay Butterfield. Okay, so there's even a third quarterback that's not on this list either, who they say is in the race, but he's really not. So you don't need to worry about him. But it's another name that's going to come up for Oregon because he was in the exact same class as Tyler Shaw, and he's just not as good. But I think the thing that we need to look at is there was a battle for the backup quarterback in last spring to see who would back up Herbert. And within the first couple practices, Cristobal basically said that it's Tyler Shaw's job, regardless. So knowing that, and then you add the fact that he's already had a year with the playbook, I think Shaw starts out the year, and I think he probably finishes the year, but he's a redshirt sophomore, so he could be gone. And all of a sudden Jay Butterfield can step right into that. And Jay Butterfield's incredible. He is a complete pocket passer. So don't expect any of that running mumbo jumbo because that's not what he's meant to do. Jay Butterfield, what does he come in at? 6'6", 202 pounds. He's absolutely incredible. He was just under 60% completion percentage. He has really good pocket awareness, which is really rare for a pro-style quarterback coming into college with already good pocket awareness, because that's not normally what we see with some of those guys, but it's incredible. And the fact that he never has to change his mechanics throwing to the outside of the numbers is something that people really, really like, because you never know where he's going to throw it, because he doesn't need to wind up any harder than he already does. And he has a really strong arm and can make every throw on the field. So there's my pro Butterfield take. Also, it might be because I really like butter, like just in general, because I'm fat. But like
your propensity for food. So, anyways,
it
what do you
spills
think
over
of
into all
Culver's?
parts
They
of
put
my
butter
life.
in their burger.
Yeah,
Culver's puts butter in their burger. Do you like Culver's? Anyways,
I love Culver's. It's the
I
best.
do too, man. They're building one in our hometown. And I'm super excited. So, anyways, we had to get it. I was going to go the food route too with you. I knew you. If it was a food name, you got to go for them.
It's not a short walk to the food for me.
All right, what do you think, Pete? You got any? Think Tyler's going to hold on to the job, or?
I agree with Kane. The one guy I'm kind of interested in is seeing if you play, starting to get more tight end premium type things, is Patrick Herbert. Maybe what to expect of him in his second year. Pretty well regarded 4-star tight end. So that's always, if you're in any tight end premiums, just hammer away at the top, and hopefully they'll step up.
Right. I like it, man. I'm going to bounce down to Boise State, and then we'll get back to Wisconsin. I kind of put them just because we're up in the West right now anyways. So I'm going to talk about Boise State, a team that's going way under the radar. I think they had Hank Bachmeier last year, looked at times good. His numbers don't look that super impressive, but I was really impressed while watching the games with the kid, this head on this kid's shoulders, man. I absolutely love him. And George Holani up there too as well. A couple guys that are flying a little bit under the radar. Holani had 1,000 yards rushing, also caught 26 passes last year. So those are just a couple names at Boise State I think you really got to keep your eye out for. So I don't know if you guys have anything on those guys. That team is just, it seems like it churns out underrated talent, at times. And I love both of those guys quite a bit. Pete?
Yeah, nothing much to say. I think Bachmeier's pretty talented quarterback. What's he going to be in the NFL? And Holani, another really talented player. So
within the first 4 weeks of the season last year, Hank Bachmeier was hit 68 times.
Yeah.
So you can't blame him for poor stats when you're getting hit that many times as a true freshman.
Right. He wasn't even supposed to start. Yeah. It was crazy.
And if we're bringing up another name, Khalil Shakir, wide receiver for Boise State, stud. I just don't. It's one of those positions. Wide receivers are really tough to say that they're really good when they're kind of in a lower conference, because they're just not facing that top tier cornerback talent. But definitely a guy you want to look at, especially if you play college fantasy football, because fella's gonna eat.
Right. With that name of Shakir, his hips don't lie. So
it's true.
Oh, dad joke. Anyways, we'll head up to Wisconsin next, up near Kane's neck of the woods there, where Nakia Watson is kind of presumed to be the guy that's going to take over for Jonathan Taylor, but I don't think he is. I think it's going to be incoming freshman Jalen Berger, and I think you're right on board with that, aren't you, Kane?
Yeah, so I think the thing that speaks volumes is that in both the Big Ten championship game and in the Rose Bowl, Nakia Watson got 0 touches. So I think that speaks a little bit of volumes, knowing that not only is he not trusted on third downs, which is Garrett Groshek's job at Wisconsin, but he wasn't even trusted to take a carry away from Jonathan Taylor. And that says a lot to me, especially in a team that relies on the running back constantly. So incoming freshman Jalen Berger, I think he's really good. I think the biggest issue that you're going to find with him is that he runs really up and down. He doesn't ever try to lower his pad level because in high school he was just bigger, stronger, faster than everyone, and you didn't have to rely on, using proper technique. But when you're in the Big Ten and you're trying to run in the cold in late October, November, early December, it's going to be tough to run the ball if you can't lower your pad level, especially when you're going to be facing, good linebackers from Penn State, from Iowa, from Minnesota that are all meant to stop the run. It's going to be really difficult for a freshman to be able to do that. So I think there's a strong chance that we see Nakia Watson maybe take a heavy load the first couple of games. And then we see Jalen Berger kind of have this stretch of about 4 or 5 games where you think he's really going to have it. But then at the end of the year, they go back to Nakia Watson because Jalen Berger can't quite get it done, which I think is going to terrify all of us Devy players because that's the last thing that we want to have happen, this back and forth between guys. But knowing their skills, I think that's just what's going to end up happening. And I think we're going to Wisconsin's going to be in running back purgatory when it comes to Devy players.
Yeah, I actually think Berger is going to take it and run, but I don't know. Like Nakia looked okay last year. I don't know, but you often saw him later in the game or like spelled, like when the game was, you want to see him gashing, defenses and things like that. And I just wasn't overly impressed with him. I don't know, Pete, you got any take on that, bud?
I'm not going to fault Nakia not getting much work behind Jonathan Taylor. Berger, interesting. He put on, I think, 15 pounds between his junior and senior year in high school. So he's got the body and the work ethic to really put on some good muscle mass. Getting up to Wisconsin, working with a collegiate strength and training program, I see that bulking up. Talking to his running back coach, like Kane said, he's a very upright runner. He's from an offense that they kind of shifted him around a lot more in high school, and I don't see them doing that as much at Wisconsin, not in the Wisconsin profile. Could he be, maybe a bigger slot guy? Who knows if he maybe makes a change if running back's not going to be his spot. But you go to Wisconsin as a running back to be the next dude. You're looking at guys, Melvin Gordon, Taylor. They've been producing some really talented running backs who get a lot of run, from the get-go in college. So,
and I think what's going to be really interesting is when you're in these Devy drafts, people are going to see that 40 time of Jalen Berger at 4.6, and they're going to think that's not great. And then you watch his tape, and he plays so much faster than 4.6.
Yeah.
He plays like a low 4.5 guy. Like he's pulling away from everyone. He has true breakaway speed. So I don't know what happened at that 40 time, whatever happened there. But I don't think you can trust that 4.6. After watching his tape, he just plays so much faster. So you just have to trust what the film says.
All right, a little off script, but what do you think's while I got you on here, Kane, what do you think? Is there anything you were looking for in Minnesota's spring game? Like, what were you thinking? I know it's kind of off the script here a little bit, but
I want to see who's going to play slot. Do they have Chris Ottman-Bell playing slot, or are they going to leave him on the outside, kind of like how he was more this past season? But with the absence of Tyler Johnson, do they put Demetrius Douglas there? Or are they going to stick with Demetrius Douglas being the return guy? I don't know. There's a lot of questions at wide receiver. They had a 4-star come in and 2 really high 3-stars, which could have been 4 stars. They were right on the edge for 24/7. So it's going to be really interesting just how that whole wide receiver group develops. I think Muhammad Ibrahim turns pro after this season. And the guy you need to look for then is Kai Thomas. He ran it's just crazy numbers. In this past season in high school, he ran for 3,027 yards and 35 touchdowns.
Damn.
I repeat, 3,027 yards and 35 touchdowns.
That's a career for most backs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he was the Kansas Gatorade Player of the Year. And I think what's really, really interesting with him is that some people think he's small just seeing him right away, but he's 5'11", 205, and he will give linebackers pop. And just knowing the way that Minnesota runs their offense, which is obviously a lot of zone schemes, so inside zone, outside zone, and just the way that he's able to set up on outside zones, I think is really important because he has great vision. It's the same thing that we see with another guy who's going to be very successful in the outside zone this next year in Journey Brown. Just the way that he sets up linebackers, and he's able to use that one cut to hit that hole and hit it hard, and then blast through for large gains. And I think that's the thing that he's going to do really well. Don't know how he's going to do in the passing game. That remains to be seen. When you're running for that many yards, it's not like you're expected to catch many balls.
Right. I love Ibrahim so much. And Tanner Morgan, too. I was really impressed with him this last year. So,
yeah, Tanner Morgan is a strange case, man. Like, here's what I'll say. There's now co-offensive coordinators at Minnesota. One being still the wide receiver coach in Matt Simon, who's terrific. The other one, I can't remember his name, but he was the offensive coordinator at Notre Dame when they had Deshaun Kaiser. So he's also the same person that recruited Christian McCaffrey to Stanford. So I think there's a chance that we can see Tanner Morgan take another step. And it's a very slight chance, but I think that possibility is still there. I can't remember this guy's name. It's the same reason why Jordan Love is getting so much recognition, because he was just at Utah State.
Yeah, I can't think of his name either. It's drawing a blank.
So not only have you seen, Deshaun Kaiser get regard from the NFL and be drafted as a second-round pick, now you're seeing the next protege that he's worked with, which is Jordan Love, and now you're seeing him possibly even top 10 projections, and then now he's going to Tanner Morgan. So some people would assume that Tanner Morgan has to take that step forward, knowing that he has his extra coaching. But I'm a little hesitant, just knowing Tanner Morgan's skills. And I think it's going to be really tough finding an NFL team that runs a similar offense to Minnesota that fits him so very well.
Interesting. Yeah, good, man. I just wanted to get your take on there because there's some guys there that I'm getting in my Devy drafts as well. So, yeah, nice. All right,
Kai Thomas is sneaky.
Yeah, I will definitely write his name. I heard you mention him a couple episodes ago, I think, on Marketplace. So, yeah.
I have an issue bringing up Gopher players. I think everyone knows that by now. So
randomly talking about something entirely different. So you're like, oh, and what about Kai Thomas? Dude, we were talking about something entirely different. So anyway.
Well, we were on one episode and Caleb goes, Kane, you want to talk about Kai Thomas? And I was like, am I supposed to? He goes, yeah, just do it real quick. I'm like, all right.
All right. And there's one other team that I wanted to go fairly deep with is Oklahoma, man. This team is silly loaded this year. I love they might finally have a quarterback for more than a year with Spencer Rattler, who's the number one quarterback in the 2019 class. And there's videos popping up on Twitter of him making just these crazy throws. And the kid's just athletic and fun. And then they've got this insane group of wide receivers. It's probably the best in the nation, I would guess. I would say there's not one even remotely close, in my opinion. With returning Charleston Rambo, the greatest name in college football. He was the top returning wide receiver from last year. Then you got all the 4- and 5-star guys. The Jaden Hazelwood, who was the number 1 wide receiver last year's class, and Theo Weiss, who was the number 3 receiver last year's class, and then Trajan Bridges, who was the number 11 receiver last year. And then also they got another 4-star guy, and Theo Howard transferred from UCLA as well. So that's some silly wide receiver talent there. I'm worried it might end up being a situation like Alabama where, target share, and everybody like, oh, he didn't break the dominator rating because, well, there's so much freaking talent there. So I don't know. I think, Pete, you got anybody you're looking forward? Who do you think is going to step forward in that wide receiver group, man? That's a ton of talent, man.
I don't know who's going to step forward, but I'm just excited to watch that wide receiver group. And hopefully, you talked about Rattler being the guy, what he can, what we've seen these tapes of his arm and what he's able to do. It'll be fun just to watch that offense. It's been fun watching it with Murray. It's been fun watching it with Hurts. So hopefully, now you get a team that's going to have Rattler there for more than just a season. So I'm happy. I'm just happy to watch Hazelwood 5-star. It's so much talent. It's crazy. It's like when we're playing NCAA and you're recruiting every 5-star wide receiver from back in the day.
Yeah, like we don't need any defense. We're just gonna score. So it's gonna be what it's like. And this is, Oklahoma's done what they've done with, a lot of people will say that like Hurts and Mayfield and Kyler there was a lot of talk about them being scheme, like the scheme gets these guys open. And this scheme doesn't need to get this talent open that they have this year. Holy shit. They are deep, man. It's deep, deep, deep. I don't know. Kane, what's your thoughts on that crazy group there? Wow.
I want Hazelwood more than the rest. I think Hazelwood just projects as a better NFL player. So that's who I would take there. I think what's really interesting for the running backs is knowing that they just got DeMarco Murray to come in as their running back coach. So I think that's super interesting, knowing that they're having someone come in that really has NFL knowledge. I think that's going to be really important for the running backs. Kennedy Brooks was obviously playing much better than Trey Sermon was last year, almost 2.5 yards per carry better. So let's see if he can continue that up. I don't want him in Devy though. Okay. I think he's just a little more of a plotter than I want there to be. So that one's tough for me. But I think of all the guys, I'm taking a chance on Jaden Hazelwood.
Fully agree, man. All right, that'll be a fun one. We'll do a couple more that I wanted to go through kind of quicker. We run a little bit long on time, and it is almost midnight my time. So, and I'm old. Is Miami?
But you work from home, Dwight.
Doesn't everybody work from home now?
That 45-second commute from my bedroom to my office is rough. Okay, I'm old. Leave me alone. Like, what do you guys think? What is your expectations of Miami this year with Derek King heading there? Is he going to save Manny Diaz's tail? Do you think that offense? They seem like they lost a lot of people by transfer. Like, I still don't know. I think the jury's out for me on King. So I'm just kind of curious what you guys thought. You want to take that one first, Kane, or?
I want Derek King to have a better coach. First, it was Helgrimson, isn't that the Houston coach that basically tried to get people to redshirt?
Oh, yep.
Yeah, that sounded terrible. Everything you heard coming out of Houston sounded just brutal for the players, and you just. Guys that were injured and dealing with a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. And so I had the opportunity to actually talk to Derek King and ask him why he chose Houston. And he did it because all of his friends around that area that, you grew up playing 7-on-7 with, they were all going to Houston together. So I think not only does it suck when you're not able to play with your friends anymore, but it sucks when the person that's supposed to be in charge of all of you makes such a poor decision. Granted, I think the scheduling for Houston was awful. I can go on and on for that. But they played 4 games in 19 days.
Yeah.
Not good scheduling there, especially opening up against Oklahoma. And Gallimore just destroying Derek King. But I think Derek King can be successful. I don't know if it's with Manny Diaz, but I want him to be because he's such a good person. but I don't have strong hopes. But that was the best choice out of all the options that he had. Like, if it's either that or Maryland, like, I'm going to choose the U.
Yeah, at this point, I think King is at best a day 2 pick. Probably going to be day 3 later rounds, and he'll probably have a good career. Just more of a backup type. That's about it at this point. I was higher on him a few seasons ago, but that's a little bit faded now.
Does he scream Trace McSorley to you?
More XFL standout. How about that?
Jay Walker, baby. I'm scared. Like, I understand it was the best option of his options, but I wish he would have went somewhere a little more stable. It just feels like adding gas to a fire. Like, I'm just worried that he's not going to come out of it all right. So I don't know. I like the kid a lot too, and before last season, he was really high on my list of guys I was watching. And
at least he's playing on a bigger stage.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give him that. Like, at least more people are going to be seeing his talent. And I think if Miami ends up going to a bowl game, it's only because of De'Aaron King.
Exactly.
No other reason.
Yep.
Because if you saw that Miami versus Florida game on week 0, that's how Miami played all season.
I would rather not ever think of that game again.
That was the sloppiest game I've ever seen in my entire life.
All right, just a couple other names that I wanted to point out real quick. Super talented Joey Gatewood transferred to Kentucky, which is kind of a name to watch there. They've had a pretty fun team to watch last couple of years at times, but just have never had a quarterback. So I'm hoping he can make something good in his career there after really not doing much in Auburn. So it's a name that I would like to watch this year and have big hopes for. I'm gonna butcher this dude's name. It's probably Deshaun Corbin takes over as Florida State's running back, and I really like that. He didn't do a whole lot in Texas A&M, and he gets a chance to prove himself at Florida State. Another 4-star guy, almost a 5-star. Like, he was a really highly, highly touted recruit. He'll get a chance to take over for Cam in Florida State. And then we talked about Jerome Ford a little bit earlier. He's going to take over in Cincinnati after Michael Warren, a team that knows how to use the running back. So I'm really excited to see what Jerome Ford does there. Another 4-star guy that didn't get a chance to play in Alabama, didn't stay long enough because they make him wait at least 3 years before they're allowed to have more than 25 touches, it seems like. So that's 3 names that I really like. Is there any other guys you can add to that if you guys want, or is there any other guys you think that you're really looking for that you would have been watching a lot this spring? Start with
so
Pete.
I want to hear Pete break down the Washington quarterback room.
It's a mess. That's the best thing I can say about it.
Is Ethan Garber's going to become the guy?
I have no idea who's going to be the guy. It's pretty brutal. I want to say that right now there's another Sermon coming up through the ranks. Jacob Sermon's little brother, who's probably going to be better. It sounded like Jacob Sermon got an offer and really got an inflated ego. I've heard a couple rumors that the UW coaching staff actually kind of wanted to pull the plug on that one after they gave it and made it official. Honestly, I have no idea who's going to be the UW quarterback this year. It's nice that Lake is still going to be there, taking over as head coach with Peterson leaving. Very good recruiter. It's just going to be, what's the offense going to look like, and what's the game there.
Well, I just drafted Garber in my campus.
It's a good shot.
League,
There is, like I said, I have zero. I think you heard about all the issues last year. Eason kind of not really taking the reins on it, and then just getting. It sounded very much that Eason basically was just given the job. It wasn't so much that he earned it coming out of the spring camps and summer ball. So
yeah, I get that.
Got to be better than Jake. Got to be better than Jake Browning, though. So
yeah, his arm.
He was
died.
a Viking for a short time.
Yeah, you know what? The season where UW got into the college playoffs, that was the Jake Browning kind of everybody liked, but he got a shoulder injury and his arm strength was shot. I mean, he never had a great arm to begin with, but after that shoulder injury, he was done. He could not push the ball down the field at all.
That's like 2009 Brett Favre.
It all ties back to Minnesota Vikings somehow. To Kane, it's the six layers of Minnesota Vikings. It's not Kevin Bacon. It's or 6 degrees. I don't know. Whatever.
I can always relate something back to Minnesota sports.
Any names you're watching out for, Kane?
Yeah, I'm just going to throw a few out. Let me know what you guys think. First one, Shavon Cordero, quarterback for Hawaii. I think he's just really interesting. Super highly recruited guy, 4-star guy coming out of high school. If I'll watch that game week 0 because there was nothing else on against Arizona when he basically led them to come back and win. I think after that game, I'm like, all right, this is my guy. Like, he's just my guy now. I have to go for him. So I really like him. Don't forget Jaden Daniels at Arizona State. I think he's a stud. Brew McCoy, I think seeing how he's going to fit into that USC offense with London and Vaughns and St. Brown, I think that's going to be really interesting to see what happens at SC. And I wish we had a spring game to clear the mud for us on that one. And then I'm going to dig into the well of tight ends here. And 2 I would mention is Jalen Weidermeyer for Texas A&M. And then the other one, Kylan Granson. He's actually a senior at SMU and will be in the next draft. I think Kylan Granson's really good, and I think that's going to be the name that people are surprised to hear after the Senior Bowl. So kind of like how we hearing Adam Troutman everywhere, that's going to be Granson next year. So don't forget about him. But those are some guys that I'm watching out for. They all might happen to be on my Campus to Canton team.
All right. You got anybody, Pete, or are you all good for tonight?
No, I think it's been knocked out. Some good talk.
All right, guys. We'll call that a wrap for this week. Nice longer show. It's always good to talk to you, Kane. Can you tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter and find your work, man?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Devy_Kane. I write with these 2 sexy gentlemen over at DLF. I haven't been there as long as these fellas, but there's a lot of Devy stuff that's about to come at DLF. So definitely be ready for that because we bouts to take over. But you can always find me on Twitter at Devy_Kane. I host both the Devy Diet and the Devy Marketplace. The Devy Marketplace being what seems to be the podcast that people like for some reason, even though I just yell at Caleb for like an hour and 10 minutes every week. But so check that out. It's really fun. We take a much different approach to Devy football than a lot of other Devy podcasts do. And we just want to look at values. That's all we care about. Because the fun part about Devy leagues is you just get another asset to trade. And when you can utilize that asset and buy and sell based off of what's happening throughout the college season, I think that just gives you a leg ahead on some of the other players in your league. So check us out there. We also just started the Draft Lounge, which is just something that we put together for fun because Twitter seems to not be the place for college football sometimes. And my wife can't hear me talk about college football anymore. So we have to do it somewhere. So the guys from Devy Marketplace and the Dynasty Draft Room got together to create a Patreon place called the Draft Lounge, where we just hang out, talk about college football, do a podcast every week, try to answer as many questions as people have. Just want it to be that one-stop shop for people to just talk about college football all day long, because that's what we're into. And we just want to talk about Devy drafts. We want to talk about college football every night of the week. So with other people, so our wives don't yell at us. And Dwight's actually a member of that, so big thanks to him for signing up. But it's really fun. We just want to talk about football with people that really enjoy talking about football.
Right. Pete?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at _Pete Law, doing stuff over at dynastyleaguefootball.com. Kane said it, man. Devy is the way to go. It's the future. We're all addicted to this game of fantasy football, and Devy really just takes that up another notch. Talking about college to Canton type leagues, it's a lot of fun, man. It's fun to watch these guys from the college, coming in, watching, trying to figure out who the next dude is at a high school, and then just the excitement of when they get drafted. So
yeah, it's like watching your kids grow up, man. I love it. So, all right, you can find me on Twitter at FFPeoplesChamp. Work at DLF as well. Not going to keep plugging, but yeah, check out DLF if you don't have it. Like Kane said, lots of Devy tools, lots of stuff added every day. It seems like we have another tool being added. It's crazy. You can find this podcast at Devy Manual, and we will talk to you guys probably in a couple weeks. So see you guys later. Whew.
All right. Kane, man, a lot of fun. I got to go eat, though. I'm hungry.